Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have David Mathews, and we had done a podcast with David a couple of months ago when the draw for New Mexico was about to happen, and David does a lot of hunting in Arizona and New Mexico and knows those New Mexico elk units really good, and they shot a really neat bull with a tip-down eye guard, and you can follow along David at David Mathews, that's Mathews Outfitters, on Instagram. David, how you doing?
Good, Jay.
That's awesome. Last time we talked, you were excited about the upcoming New Mexico elk season. How did your moisture turn out, and how did antler growth turn out over there this season?
You know, the antler growth, we'll touch on antler growth first. I think the antler growth this year is very good in the Gila over there in New Mexico. It seems to be, I would say, a little bit above average. If there's an average chart with the Gila, the moisture was awesome. I mean, everything was lime green until you know, it started to freeze over there at night, and then it started to brown up. But moisture was awesome. You know, a lot of the dry tanks that are normally dry had a little bit of water in them. So, the moisture was really good over there also.
That's great. So moisture was good. Antler growth was good. Would you say it's above average antler growth?
Yeah, I think if there's an average chart, I would consider it a little bit above average this year. Due to the good moisture, the good winter that wasn't real rough on the elk this year, and all the spring and monsoon rain that we had, the timely rain. So I think it was a little bit above average.
Okay, good. What units do you primarily guide in over there in New Mexico?
I primarily guide the 16D, Unit 16A, and Unit 15. Those are my primary units over there in New Mexico, just right across the border from Arizona onto the Gila.
Okay, sure. The season dates, from what I understand, there's basically 2 archery dates. There used to be 3 archery seasons in New Mexico. Now there's 2 season dates. I believe it starts on the 1st through the 15th, and then like the 16th to the 24th. You can correct me. Tell me about those early hunts. I assume the early archery hunts typically are pretty tough, but sometimes you can get a good bull pegged, and how did those early hunts specifically play out over there in the Gila?
Okay, so the first hunt is September 1st through the 14th. Second hunt is the 15th through the 24th. This year, I'll just kind of give you a rundown on how this year went for us. The first hunt, they started out really well. I mean, it was cooler temperatures. About September 4th, we started seeing a little bit of heat wave come through New Mexico over the Gila. So they kind of slowed down a little bit for about 4 or 5 days, and then they picked right back up and started going, kind of where they left off. So I think this year, the first hunt primarily is a little rougher, just because they're not in full swing. They're not in full rut, and the bulls are just getting fired up. They're only bugling, the first hour of daylight, maybe the last hour in the evening, type of hunting. So this year, I think it was it was a little better than average. After that heat wave passed us, they bugled pretty good in the morning. We got an hour and a half, 2 hours of hunting in the morning, chasing bugles, and then in the evening they seem to start up a little bit earlier than they normally do. So we did have some pretty good rut action on the first hunt. We did kill that bull. Believe it or not, that bull with a tip-down eye guard, we killed him on the first hunt this year. He was singing the song and carrying on pretty good with some cows early, so we were able to hunt that bull and get him killed in a couple days. So we were real fortunate on that guy. So the second season this year.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to go right into second season.
Yep.
Okay. Well, second season this year. I mean, it started out, it started out awesome. The elk were really bugling hard in the 16 units. 15, it was a little slower, but the 16s, they were going good from day one of the second season, and they carried on and progressed daily. You could see it, change overnight daily for the better. Towards the end of the season, we did start to see where the bulls were coming together a little bit and starting to fight. And, some of the bigger bulls, unfortunately, one of the ones that we were chasing second season, he was a very, very nice bull. We had him the second to the last day at 65 yards, but we noticed that he had broken off right behind his sword tine. And my hunter that I was actually taking really wanted a pretty one, and you can get them fixed from the taxidermy, but that wasn't his ideal thought of the hunt. He really wanted to have a nice bull put together, from the start. So we elected to pass on the bull that we hunted for 6 days up until that point. So, but it wow. Really turned out good. The bulls were, the rut was really, really cranking, the last few days of that second season.
Would you say, talking about the first hunt, would you say 16A or 16D this year had better bugling?
I think the first hunt this year, 16D, had better bugling than 16A. We had a hunter in 16A, and they didn't really show much interest, even though we were on a bull that we had hunted the last 2 years in 16A. We were on him early, but he wasn't really cranking, as early as the 16D, but by the end of the first hunt, he had gathered some cows and he was starting to carry on pretty good too.
Gotcha. And then is it pretty safe to say because of pressure, 15 typically doesn't see quite as good of bugling action as A and D just because it has more hunters?
Without a doubt. And you got to think of this as, a lot of guys put it into perspective and they think that 15 really never ruts as hard. They rut as hard, they just don't respond to the calls and bugle quite as much just for the sheer amount of hunters that are put in the unit annually. So you think of some of these big ranches up in Utah or in Colorado where these elk are really bugling, and by the time they're of the right age to harvest, these elk on these big ranches haven't seen, the multiple calling techniques or the amount of hunting pressure as in Unit 15, where in Unit 15 these bulls have been exposed to so many calling, types and sequences and those type of things that they're really call wise, in the unit. So you have to hunt them. The best tactic, in my opinion, in Unit 15 is hunting them silent and making them mess up, letting them make all the noise and you move in silently and get in the right, area or position and let them slip up. They have to be right every time. All you have to be right is once. So, that's my favorite technique in that unit, just because they are called to a lot and they're really call wise there.
Okay. So moving forward, well, let me ask you one more question. Okay. I had Jeff Lester on with Hunt Hard Outfitters, and he had talked about you guys had quite a bit of wind, abnormal wind. Did you encounter the same thing this season, more abnormal than on a regular year?
Yes. We had a few days of high winds. And it made hunting tough if you weren't sitting on the bulls already. You couldn't hear them. A couple hundred yards was about the maximum range you could hear them just because the wind was blowing through the trees. And it was creating so much noise that it was hard to hear the elk. So I know it had to affect the rut. While the wind was howling. They just didn't. They seemed to slow down a little bit, and they weren't moving as quick. and they weren't coming as far away from their bedding areas as they normally did. So, I mean, we just had to hut them a little bit tighter than to their bedding area than what we were, when on the days that it wasn't as windy.
Do you feel like when it's windy, David, do you feel like they are trying to protect themselves by not moving too much and staying a little bit in a tighter range? Do you think that's a defense mechanism from predators because there's so much rustling around them and such, or why do you think they kind of tighten up like that?
Well, I think, this is my personal opinion, I really think that the high winds like that, it takes away a couple of their senses. It takes away their sense of hearing, one, which they rely on, quite a bit, and also the sense of smell. I think that wind really, when it's whipping that hard, I mean, it just disperses the scent of any predators or any of those type of things that could cause potential danger for those elk. I think it just disperses the scent and just basically blows the scent away, and they don't get that sense of smell, unless, of course, they're quite a bit closer to, the danger or the predator that they could potentially smell.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good explanation. Moving forward, you're looking at the firearms. I believe there's some youth and some mobility impaired. What's on the table for you looking forward here?
Okay, well, our next season we do have the youth in Unit 15. We've got a couple of those guys, and we also have a mobility impaired guy in Unit 16D. I think, like I said, I think the rut generally on this season, year to year, it's really starting to wind down, on these hunts, but we're still able to get on, several really quality animals that are still rutting and bugling and carrying on. So we're really looking forward to it this year. That 16D hunt, that, like I said, the antler growth in those units are really, really, I mean, it's awesome this year, and the sky's the limit really on the potential of the animals that we could take with these firearm hunters.
How do you think it's going to go down? You think they'll still be rutting and be able to get on them?
I think for sure in Unit 15, just because it started to come on a little later there, I think that 15 will still have a pretty good chance at facing some pretty good rut action on those hunts. 16D, with as early as it started there, I would have to almost think that it's going to be winding down pretty quick that time of year, which isn't a huge deal. Those bulls still kind of hang around for a few days after the time that they're done rutting, just kind of maybe checking cows at night or that type of thing. But they'll still be able to, we'll still be able to find some of those bigger bulls just kind of hanging on the outskirts of some of those herds. That's what we've done in the past, and I think that's the kind of action we'll see this year.
How do you think the success rate was across the board in 16A, 16D, and 15 on the archery hunt? And if the success rate was down, could it create some holdover bulls for next year? What are your thoughts on that?
I really believe this year, with talking to a couple of the game and fish officers over there, and just talking with a couple of my other buddies that are outfitters and that type of thing, I think the success rate this year, for some reason, wasn't as high as the years past. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was those couple days of wind, just kind of blew into the prime time of that hunt. So possibly that was it. But I know that I don't think it was as high. We just didn't see as many bulls in the back of trucks and that type of thing this year as we normally do. So, and like I said, talking to the Game and Fish, they said that the success was down, quite a bit also with the bulls that they've actually checked. So I think, with that being said, I think the potential of carryover is going to be unreal, because there was a lot of bulls that we saw and that we personally know about up until this point, bulls that we hunted or such that could darn sure blow up and make some giants next year.
Right on. And then after the firearms elk seasons, you've got, I'm sure you've got a bunch of deer hunts. You're a deer nut. What do you have on your table or on your plate?
Okay. Well, after the firearm elk hunts, we move right into deer season. We've got some of the Kaibab deer hunts in Arizona. We've got some deer hunts up in northern New Mexico around the 2C, 2B areas. We're really looking forward to those. We did a lot of scouting preseason up in northern New Mexico looking for some of those governor tag type of bucks. We did find a few bucks that we think would foot the bill for governor tag 220 type of deer that were passed on early, which is okay with us. We like hunting the big stuff. So, those bigger bucks like that, now we've got lines on those big bucks for some, for the potential of some of our general season hunters, which is awesome. So, it's, the deer season for us. We all love to deer hunt, so we're excited about that and looking forward to what this season could bring as far as antler size and growth for the deer also.
What are you thinking for antler growth? I assume you're over there on the archery hunt. What's it looking like?
You know what? I think the antler growth as far as the deer also, New Mexico, Arizona also. I've run a lot of cameras in Arizona. Did a lot of scouting in New Mexico. I think we're above average on the antler growth for deer also. Everything looks really good this year as far as antler growth, and I just can't wait to start getting some of these big bucks that we know about put on the ground and getting to put our hands on them and see, exactly. Everybody's got their score in their mind and their guesses and stuff like that, but until you get them on the ground, you don't truly know. So we're excited to potentially get a couple of these bucks on the ground and we all have these friendly bets amongst each other on what they score. So we're looking forward to that and moving forward with the season.
David, we have a mutual friend, Ryan Hatch of Muley Crazy Magazine, and he wrote, yes. I don't know if you've seen it in the latest article, and I thought an awesome article on trail cameras and kind of talking about, cameras and what have you. In your opinion, do deer and elk on a camera look bigger or smaller on camera than they do in person?
Honestly, this has always been my opinion. Pictures at night, and I haven't read the article yet. Like I said, I've been hunting so hard I haven't even got to sit down and read the article, but I do know Ryan and I had talked about the article that he was writing, and I look forward to reading it. But in my opinion, I think night pictures always make animals look smaller than what they are. Daytime pictures, they always look better and bigger. I think, like I said, I think nighttime pictures, and of course, a majority of your pictures you're getting of some of the most quality animals are nighttime pictures. So it's always fun to see, when you actually have something to hunt, nighttime versus daytime, what they actually finish out.
Do you feel like it's a depth issue within the horn itself? It's just not picking up all of the depth of the horn, or what is it that makes them look smaller? Because I feel the same way, actually deer, elk, and sheep, like night photos, like it just, for some reason, they look smaller. Yeah,
I think definitely it has something to do with depth. It's like one of those things, I'm an avid phone scoper, if you'd say there's such a thing, but I love video, phone scoping, and the prime example is when something could be, skylined, what I'm saying, up on a ridge, skyline, when you're actually videoing it, like the light bleeds through the horns, what I'm saying? So it makes it look just a fuzz smaller than what it actually is, and it drops down off the skyline, with some natural background, natural colors and that type of thing. You can actually get, it just looks a little bit bigger and better than those skyline photos. And I think maybe, like I said, the nighttime photos when that infrared goes off, it might have some kind of the same effect where it's just not picking up the full form or figure of the antler. if you may say. So I think it has something to do with the light and the reflective, light that comes
Sure.
back. So.
What cameras, I know you run a lot of cameras, what are your favorite cameras and why?
You know what, I've been running, I initially started with the covert camera. I love the covert camera for the battery life. But I've since changed to the stealth cam. I love the stealth cam. It's not quite as good battery life as the covert, but the pictures and the resolution, on those stealth cams are quite a bit higher. I've got a couple of those 4Ks. They're amazing, and that's for lack of better terms, they are amazing cameras, and they take awesome night video, awesome night pictures. Daylight is unreal. The video and the pictures, those cameras are top of the line. I really love those.
So David, those 4K cameras that Stealth Cam makes, does it shoot photos and video both, or do you set it to just take video, just take photos?
See, you can do both, but it simultaneously, if you set it up correctly, it'll take videos and pictures at the same time. So, it takes several more batteries just because of the capability of being able to do that. It has two lenses on it. One lens for picture and one lens for the video. So it does it both. Every 10 seconds it'll take a still shot of basically of your video. You see what I'm saying? So your video.
Yeah. So in essence, you're getting a great video, but every 10 seconds you're also getting a still. Because sometimes it's good to have a still image as well.
Exactly. Yep. That's exactly what it's doing. And like I said, they're awesome. I mean, the quality is out of this world. In my opinion. I mean, every detail you can see.
How long have you been finding with the battery life on those 4Ks? I mean, is it days? Is it weeks? Obviously it depends on how many pictures, how many videos it's taken, but in general, can you get a week out of it? Can you get two? How long can you get batteries out of those 4Ks?
Generally, I would say, like I said, unfortunately, on a lot of the spots that we set up, nighttime pictures or video is a majority of what we get. So with the nighttime, I mean, your infrared, when it lights up, it's 30 seconds at a time or 20 seconds or whatever you have your video timer set. So, like I said, it's not as good on that. I have seen about a week and a half, and that's with I think there was 1,300 videos, or something like that in a week and a half, So, like I said, there was a lot of activity on it, but 90% of it was at nighttime. And like I said, a week and a half, it went from 99% when I set it up to about 21% in a week and a half. So there wasn't much battery life left in her, when we checked it a week and a half later. So. Okay.
And then compare that if you're not running those 4Ks, your other stealth cams, how much battery life or how much time are you getting out of those? Twice as much?
Okay, yeah, oh yeah, easily twice as much. A majority of the time when I go out and say I'm going out to the Arizona Strip, I'll set in June, and generally the last time I check in July, we'll be at about 50% battery on the regular stealth with just taking pictures. So. Like I said, you get 2 months, 3 months, maybe 4 months max on those regular stealths with just the still pictures.
Okay. Okay, and then in cold weather, you're going to get less battery life, right? Or is it,
yes. In cold weather,
the warmer is better, colder is worse.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Okay, that's all good stuff. Well, you had a good elk season, and you've got a handful of more hunts coming up, Firearms there in New Mexico, and then you're going to be on to deer. And just want to encourage anybody that has any questions for David. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, to book a hunt, or to chat with you?
The best way to get a hold of me is through my website, davidmatthewsoutfitters.com, or give me a call on my cell. And my cell number is 928-300-6405. And, and we'll talk some hunting.
That sounds good, buddy. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your knowledge, and congratulations on your success. And I'll continue to look for photos there on Instagram and such of your future success here. And I'm glad I was able to get you on. And what did that bull that tipped down in the front, what did that bugger score?
He grossed 371. So
That's
we
nice
were pretty excited. Yeah, he was awesome. He has triple brow tines on that tip down eye guard side, and all the way up. He was just cool. He was an awesome bull.
That's cool. Well, good luck to you, buddy, and I'll be chatting at you down the road. Okay.
All righty. Thank you, Jay.